Following Naga Sadow's failure to conquer the Republic, only a small number of Naga Sadow's ships were able to return to the Sith Empire. Naga Sadow, committed to his objective, decides to gather more soldiers for a second raid against the Republic. However, from deep space appears Ludo Kressh, claiming to be the new Dark Lord of the Sith. After having simulated his end, thanks to a decoy, he took advantage of the time that Naga Sadow left for the core of the galaxy and organized his military force to take power from the throne that Naga Sadow temporarily left vacant. Now, with the best strategic position, Ludo Kressh begins his surprise attack on Naga Sadow's depleted army, beginning the first battle of Korriban. Despite the numerical advantage, Naga Sadow wouldn't allow himself to be defeated so easily. The constant fire between the capital ships caused their mutual destruction. However, each of the captains wouldn't allow themselves to be defeated by their enemy. Numerous dogfights between opposing Sith starfighters dotted the battle area, and capital ships were destroyed on both sides by the constant laser fire. Naga Sadow knew that Ludo Kressh's plan had been very good. Attacking him without the opportunity to prepare new spaceships took the Sith by surprise. So, determined not to lose to his rival, Naga Sadow orders one of his doomed and nearly destroyed ships to carry out a direct attack on Ludo Kressh's flagship, even knowing it would be the end of both of them. This action taken would be the final point on the greatest enemy Naga Sadow had, Ludo Kressh. On Kirek, Odan-Ur looks out over the battlefield and mourns the loss of his master. However, the planet resisted the Sith invasion. On the other hand, on Coruscant, a celebration is taking place in a Senate hall, with all the refugees and the citizens. Memit Nadil, hopeful for a better tomorrow, disconnects his lightsaber, wishing not to turn on his weapon again in another conflict. Thanks to the coordinates provided by Gav, Empress Teta finds the location of the Sith Empire. Like Ludo Kressh's attack, this move by Empress Teta takes Naga Sadow by surprise, and the situation is even worse since the first battle of Korriban ended not long ago. Yori, from the controls of a turret, fires at the Sith ships, inflicting damage on Sadow's exhausted forces, starting the second battle of Korriban. Empress Teta attacks Naga Sadow with everything she has, for the victims he caused and for the peace and freedom of the Republic. Naga Sadow won't give up so easily, so he orders all his remaining spaceships to form a barrier between the Dark Lord and Teta's fleet. This would allow Naga Sadow to escape to Denari Nova, a tight binary star. However, this escape is not predicted by Teta, since, at the moment of making the move, Naga Sadow somehow sneaks away and simulates the destruction of his ship, causing Teta and Yori to think that Naga Sadow was destroyed. On Koros Major, in Teta's palace, the Empress receives her friends, Memit Nadil and Odan-Ur, after the victory in the Great Hyperspace War. Within Teta's team, there are two people who ask her for a favor. Having played an important role in the Republic's victory, Yori asks the Empress to be the new owner of Arva's repair dock, honoring the memory of her former friend Hot and her brother Gap. On the other hand, the Jedi Odan-Ur, following his passion for knowledge, asks the Empress for permission to investigate the Sith ships abandoned by the invaders, in order to gather information. Aboard the ship, completely destroyed after the battles, Odan-Ur enters the corridors. For some reason, something calls him to a particular direction, and to his surprise, he came across a device, an Holocron. However, this one was different from the ones he knew. This one had a pyramidal shape. It was a Sith Holocron. Inspired by his master, and after discovering the device, Odan-Ur would propose to start a new project, a legacy that remains for posterity. the Jedi would wield the Great Jedi Library, a place to store an unlimited amount of knowledge. The ideal place to house this project, the planet Ossus. Naga Sadow's lone spaceship with his limited army arrives at an isolated place in the galaxy, an uninhabited solar system. On Naga Sadow's radars, he can observe that the system in question is called Yavin. As the best option to take refuge, Naga Sadow chooses the fourth moon of the planet, the moon called Yavin 4, covered with jungle, lush with life, a secret place for a new star. Thus establishing within Yavin 4 his new base. The Great Hyperspace War ended as suddenly as it had started. The Sith Empire's crippling defeat in the conflict carved a deep wound. Victory against the Republic should have been assured. Instead, the Sith's failure left millions dead, the Empire in ruins, and scarred the pride of every Sith survivor. In turn, the history of the Republic demonstrates a pattern of completely annihilating any threat it has had, in order to take control of it by absorbing it into the system or destroying it completely. The Sith, led by Naga Sadow, had truly put the Republic and the Jedi in trouble, so the Republic itself wouldn't forget this grievance. With the information provided by Gab Daragon indicating to the Republic the exact location of the Sith Empire, Supreme Chancellor Pultimo took action on the matter. It was at this time that the Republic made what could be in the future considered a mistake. The Sith were no longer a threat to the Republic, but the Supreme Chancellor wasn't satisfied. Within the Sith Empire, everything was in ruins. After a golden age within Sith society, now, in a short period, 3 Dark Lords of the Sith had ruled and social destabilization had reached critical points. In addition to adding the loss of valuable resources that the Sith had after their defeat in the Great Hyperspace War. A society without a ruler and without the most basic things, such as food or medicine, turned the Sith back into a community ruled by barbarism. As a civilization so proud and with a violence so ingrained in its culture, the defeat at the hands of the Republic was a humiliation. According to the Republic and led by the Supreme Chancellor, the mistake made almost 2,000 years ago with the liberation of the Dark Jedi that caused the rise of the Sith Empire would be fixed at that very moment, ending that threat once and for all. Caused by the corruption of the dark side, an invasion against the Sith would be carried out, resulting in a Republic occupation of Sith space, a counter-invasion. Republic dreadnoughts were what Sith society saw from the sky. Fear was the next thing that experienced as they noticed the destruction the Republic was causing. At this time, for the winner of the Great Hyperspace War, the ends justified the means, and the eradication of the Sith was underway. Any place reminiscent of the Sith Empire would be destroyed. Architecture, military bases, anything, destroyed by the Republic. Sith military factions attempted to defend themselves, all without success. Groups of Sith were captured. However, the Republic was so tired of so much violence, so the punishment for them would be different. The Wall of Light is one of the most powerful offensive techniques that the Jedi had. It simply consisted of cutting the connection of the Force to a sensitive being. This is how groups of Jedi captured the Sith, detaching them from the gift of the Force. This technique involves the collaboration of several Jedi to create a blue energy prison that encompasses an entire space. This prison would act as a wall that could completely sterilize bodies within its range, blocking out those linked to the dark side of the Force. The main purpose of this technique is to cause a complete eradication of the malevolent influence of the dark side in a specific area. Those trapped within this wall of light experience extreme agony due to the disruption of their connection to the Force, and this separation can be made permanent. Groups of Jedi Shadow, a type of Jedi Sentinel, scoured Sith worlds in search of artifacts influenced by the dark side. Whatever they were, these led to the destruction of Sith amulets, talismans, and other relics. However, not all Sith artifacts were destroyed. Many were kept in the hands of the Jedi for study, and also, a bitter argument broke out when the curators of the Cursed Galactic Museum claimed that the Sith artifacts, like any historical curiosities, belonged to the museum. Negotiating a compromise, the Chancellor's office granted the museum the rights to display Sith artifacts in a specific room, the Sith Hall, with exception of Sith Holocrons or Sith Scrolls, which were to be given to the Jedi Temple. In one of the raids to eliminate the Sith artifacts, the groups of Jedi Shadow arrived at Veeshas Tuwan on the world of Arcania. Considered the largest repository of Sith objects, Veeshas Tuwan, a city-sized library temple, was destroyed, and because of the fear that plays instilled, it is said that the knowledge found there was enough for the Sith to recover everything in its splendor. Subsequent groups of Sith in later millennia decried the destruction of Veeshas Tuwan as one of the worst losses suffered by the Sith in the entire history, as many priceless objects and writings of cultural significance were presumed lost during its destruction. The purge of the Sith Empire was total. The Republic wiped out places culturally sacred and leaving no trace of the Sith. Even the deceased tested the Republic's thirst for revenge, completely destroying the Valley of the Sleeping Kings. When it became clear that surrender was the only option, a Sith took the title of Dark Lord of the Sith, Shardakan, and ordered his warriors to give their lives in attacks against the invading fleet, inflicting heavy casualties and forcing the Republic into a retreat. The surviving Sith Lords disappeared, while others built up a new Sith Empire in the unknown regions. Elsewhere, on remote worlds such as Kressh, shipwrecked survivors of the war gave up hope of rescue, but kept the traditions of Sith alive for future generations. The Republic had crushed the Sith in every way, and at the worst moment in history for them, something terrible would be born within this tragedy. Before the death of Marka Ragnos, a young Sith with enormous potential of the dark side of the Force appeared before the Dark Lord of the Sith to offer himself as an apprentice to Marka Ragnos. Despite being impressed with the boy, Ragnos rejected the offer. However, before leaving, he granted him with the title of Lord Vitiate. His position as ruler of Nathema, his homeworld, officially recognized, Lord Vitiate returned to his home to conduct his research into the depths of the dark side's power. Lord Vitiate emerged at the Sith's worst time to give them a reason to believe again. But sadly, it was a false hope. When Marka Ragnos fell, he didn't join in the mad rush to claim his position. He wasn't part of the Great Hyperspace War against the Republic. When Naga Sadow and Ludo Kressh fought for the leadership of the Sith, he took no side. But in the aftermath of the war, he emerged from his solitude to call a great council of all the Sith Lords who remained. He invited them to his place on Nathema, built on the site of his childhood home. It was clear from the records that Nathema is not the original name of the world, but why it was changed and why he was there has been carefully purged from all records. He asked them to participate in a ritual to unlock the full potential of the dark side. He promised they would unleash power beyond anything they had ever witnessed or imagined. the event known as the Ritual of Nathema. The Sith Lords didn't suspect a trap. Some refused to answer the call, but many more came. More than 8,000 Sith Lords. After all, what could one man do against thousands of Sith Lords? The Sith Lords were driven by fear. Many thought the Jedi would soon wipe them all out. They were desperate for anything they could use as a weapon against the servants of the light side. Lord Vitiate played upon these fears, convincing those who answered his call to set aside their suspicions of him and of one another to join in a single glorious cause. Once they arrived on Nathema, they quickly fell under Lord Vitiate's control. He dominated their minds, crushed their resistance. He made them servants of his will, forcing them to participate in the most complex ritual of Sith sorcery ever attempted. Calling on the dark side, Lord Vitiate devoured them. He fed on their power, absorbing it into himself, completely destroying all traces of his victims. But the ritual wasn't confined to the doomed Sith Lords. They were but the eye of the storm, the center of a vortex that spread across the entire planet. All the men, women and children of Nathema met the end that day. Every beast, bird and fish, all the insects and plants, every living thing touched by the Force was consumed. When the ritual ended, Nathema was no longer a world. It was a dry shell. Lord Vitiate offered the lives of millions in exchange for becoming immortal. The end of every living being made them stronger than any Sith that had existed before.